An edge is not a bad thing because, to stay with the analogy, it carves out a place in the mind of the consumer. Brands that don't have an edge run the risk of just being thought of as friends. And we live in a culture where likes is a commodity. Friendship is not going to prevent you from losing market share. Advocacy and love is. And it seems silly for somebody, oh, do I love a brand? There are brands that I love that I simply do not and cannot live my life without. Um, and how do you know? It's because when those brands disappoint you, you get very, very upset. So it's like a
Hmm.
relationship with somebody. If you're in a passionate, trusted relationship and that person hurts you, you're going to react.
You are listening to Power Marketing.
Welcome. My name is Greg Lichardi. Along with being Vice President of Partnerships for Worth Media Group, I teach marketing at Fordham and Seton Hall Universities. And I am so excited to be doing this interview today for eMarketing Association with one of the industry's luminaries, Doug Zarkin. Doug is currently Chief Brand Officer for Good Feet Worldwide, but has had many successful roles during his career. Doug was Chief Marketing Officer for Pearle Vision, Essilor Luxottica, where he won several awards. And Doug's going to share more about what the success he's had during his career. But what really stood out to me in looking at Doug and speaking with him is his humanistic approach to marketing, which we're going to talk about today. Doug and I first met actually just a couple of weeks ago up at Fordham University, where he was talking to students about what it takes to be successful in marketing today. He always takes time out to share his knowledge, which is such a great thing. Doug practices what he preaches, and he has recently put his wisdom and his amazing experience into a new book, which I just finished reading, Moving Out of the Friend Zone, which I highly recommend. It's amazing. I know I got it on Amazon. It got to my house the next day. I know it's also on Kindle. And I'm actually going to use this next semester. I'm going to make it a assigned reading for my students. And we're going to talk about that today. So welcome, Doug.
You're the one who read it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was amazing. I just want to share before we get started. I'm actually in my office today. I to prevent my dog from like photo and sound bombing our interview, I came into Midtown Manhattan on a Friday because I wanted this to just be perfect. So I'm really excited to be speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us. So I think let's just start out with the book. What was the catalyst for your book, and what who would benefit most from reading it?
So I'm truly humbled that you took the time to order it and read it. And I hope you came away with a couple nuggets that are going to help you in some way, shape, or form. Although somebody with your degree of experience, the book really is designed more for those that are in school or young in their career who are trying to navigate the art and science of building brands and creating what I like to call brand love. For me, the decision to write it really came out of a bit of an itch that I try to scratch through doing things like speaking at Fordham. I love to teach. I love to mentor. I love to unlock the potential in people. And it's a little bit out of a bit of a desire to have for people what I didn't necessarily have, which was a string of really good mentors to learn from in my career. I was fortunate to have one amazing leader and a couple of decent bosses, but I've always felt that mentorship and stewardship is part of the obligation of everybody who actually achieves any modicum of success in their career is to give back and share.
Yeah.
And so that really was the desire was really to figure out how to do that on a much larger scale.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And when you wrote the book, who did you have in mind as like the most who would gain most from the book? Like, who were you writing it for?
For that young account executive or that young assistant brand manager who's come out of school, whether it's undergrad or grad, and has a marketing degree and thinks they have all the answers. And when they face the realities of what it is to be a part of a large brand or even a small brand, and recognize that that playbook doesn't exist, because there is no playbook. The playbook is really about the decision you make and the way in which you choose.
Yeah.
And so crafting your way is very intimidating. And if there are resources that could help you and equip you with different constructs and formats to think through as you create your way to build the brand, maybe that'd be helpful.
Yeah, the book has incredible utility to it, and summaries at the end of each chapters. And but even someone like myself who has a lot of experience and I teach marketing, I gained a lot from reading it. So I think it's really for anyone with an interest, anyone who's starting a business, starting to market anything, whether it's a course they're teaching, a new product, a new service, they'll gain from it. One thing that really stood out to me was your concept of thinking human. This approach to marketing, really, I haven't read a lot about it outside of your book. So can you talk to that? What is that? What are you getting at there, thinking human?
So thinking human is really based on the premise that imagine when you build your business and brand and you get to the place of scale, you lose a little bit of the intimacy that comes perhaps from being a small business. So the notion of thinking human is really about the idea of treating every customer as if they were your only customer. And combined with the notion that consumers make emotional decisions before they make rational choices helps to shape not only the what you do, but the how you do it.
Yeah, that's powerful. That makes sense. And that really, it becomes a distinguishing factor for the brand. What do you feel is the most important chapter? I mean, you cover a wide range in the book, but what do you feel, sitting down with it will pop most with your audience?
I think it's the chapter on brand positioning. Marketing is about positioning, and positioning is about the art of sacrifice. And I talk in the book about the notion of, we've all been to a buffet in our lives. Some of us have been to Vegas and seen buffets on steroids. Nobody physically ever feels good after eating at a buffet because the human body is not designed to eat pizza or lobster and salad and fish and ice cream and pie, unless you're like 23. And then by then you're the exception to the rule.
Right.
Marketing, it's the same way. If you try to do all these different things, brands actually could have indigestion, and it creates such chaos in the mind of the consumer that they really don't know what to think about your business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Crystallizing it, is really important. And then I know in the book you also you've been referred to as, I think it was like the creator of love stories between brands and audiences.
Okay.
Explain that.
So, the idea of creating longevity in brand marketing is about understanding, again, as I mentioned before, that consumers truly do make emotional decisions before they make rational choices. And so that storytelling, that power of creating that emotional dynamism, whether it's love or hate, sad or happy, comedy or tragedy, all of those are emotional spectrums. And your ability to tap into those and create edges to your brand. An edge is not a bad thing because, to stay with the analogy, it carves out a place in the mind of the consumer. Brands that don't have an edge run the risk of just being thought of as friends. And we live in a culture where likes is a commodity. Friendship is not going to prevent you from losing market share. Advocacy and love is. And it seems silly for somebody, do I love a brand? There are brands that I love that I simply do not and cannot live my life without. And how do you know? It's because when those brands disappoint you, you get very, very upset. So it's like a relationship with somebody. If you're in a passionate, trusted relationship and that person hurts you, you're going to react. Somebody who you like are kind of friendly with hurts you, you don't give a shit. So take the same analogy and put it to the relationships and connections you have with brands. You start to understand why.
Oh, yeah. And especially today in the hyper social media world we live in, where people are sharing and recommending and commenting on brands in real time. It's incredible. And let's take that and kind of transition to your career. I'm actually writing a book myself on the Holy Grail of marketing, and this is the backbone of the courses that I teach at Fordham and Seton Hall. And basically, the Holy Grail of marketing is the ability to reach the right person at the right time with the right message in the right environment, delivering the right outcome. And Doug, for you, is there an example during your career where you were successful utilizing an aspect or utilizing the Holy Grail of marketing? I'm just curious.
I would humbly say that I don't think I've ever found the Holy Grail of marketing, but what I can say is I think I've been able to identify a need state and develop a platform that tapped into it. And I'll go back to my days at Avon launching the Mark brand. Here was a 118-year-old or 120-year-old company that was always thought of as your mother's brand. And as a guy going to work for the company for women, you're talking to one of the few men that was an Avon lady. So if you need lip gloss, my friend, let me know. I'm pretty good at it.
Okay,
but
I will.
what we tapped into was an incredible need state. As the college campus community was ramping up in the early 2000s, the beginnings of the internet were still in its beginnings. Community was still about physical connection. And so we saw an opportunity to create a business that was not only the makeup that you could buy, but also the makeup that you could sell. It was an earning opportunity. And so we focused on that college female consumer. We did marketing programs, like tapped into the top 50 college campuses by female pop and found ambassadors to become some of the first Mark representatives to seed the product. We developed one of the first content marketing pieces called the Magalog, which was one part magazine, one part catalog. And it was about content. And if you look at that, I still have them. When I look back at it, it actually was almost like social media, but in paper form. It was a lot of tutorials and advice and guidance, not just here's a product to go buy.
Yeah.
So we were on to something. And look, we took the business to about 120 million in the first 18 months. So we got very, very lucky, or I should say fortuitous, that we tapped into something pretty amazing at the right time.
Oh my gosh. That's an incredible example. And I love the Magalog because the message, targeting female college students within a medium that they read at the time, that was probably the source they went to for information. And you created a piece to go within that. And having that engagement and the timing gave you the right outcome clearly because your sales went up so much and with college women. So that's incredible. Retail is evolving rapidly, and do you have any tips on how brands should take advantage of the online and offline world? I mean, you have a lot of experience in several roles that you've had, but where do you feel that the success lies there?
I don't think there's a formula. I think it's about humility. And I'll say it to this. Think about how many apps you have on your phone. Now think about how many apps you have on your phone that you use every day. All the rest of them were all thought of as great ideas because there was a need state that we had to do it.
Right.
I think as you look at omni-channel, you've got to ask yourself, where is the strength of your brand? So like, for example, in my new role as the chief brand officer at Good Feet Worldwide, the Good Feet store is our largest brand, 250 locations across the country. And the magic of our brand begins with our people. It begins in those personal connections where we can help somebody feel joy because we're relieving their pain.
Mm-hmm.
We're helping them with discomfort and providing them a path towards a solution to live a more pain-free existence. And that joy forms amazing emotional bonds. And I would be remiss if I didn't celebrate that. At the same time, we have businesses within the portfolio where we're selling things like compression wear and socks under different brands in the portfolio. Right. And there you have to represent the fact that a consumer wants access to this and may not want to go to brick and mortar. So you want to be able to have a multi-channel approach.
Yes.
All way of saying that there is not a one-size-fits-all solution, but there are definitely solutions. And it's a matter of picking and choosing what those are.
Yeah, that's having those offering those choices, making the brand accessible with a variety of different products and a variety of different channels, I think is brilliant. So that's really great. So what's next for you, Doug? Your book is doing great. I hope everyone gets a copy of it. I highly recommend it. Are you going out and doing more speaking engagements or promoting what you're preaching?
I'm fortunate that I have the opportunity to do some speaking engagements and talk to people like you on podcasts and conferences. My new role at Good Feet is more than a full-time job. We just announced a new acquisition, a brand called Stretched.
Oh, yes,
which is a very high-end, stretching platform. And for somebody who lives in a perpetual state of soreness like myself, I'm actually really excited to drink our own Kool-Aid. But I'm excited, more importantly, to try to continue to make a difference. In a franchise system like Good Feet, where you have incredibly successful franchisees, you do have to step back and listen in order to lead. And I just got back late last night from a listening tour down in one of our larger markets with one of our more prominent franchisees. And I learned a hell of a lot, not just by what we discussed, but what I observed and what we didn't discuss. So I'm kind of drinking from a fire hose, but I'm enjoying every minute of it. My days are long. My mind is going kind of 90 miles a minute, but any opportunity I have to help somebody, I'm trying to do it. I think you got to put good juju in the world and hope it comes back to you.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, keep going, Doug. Thank you so much for being with us today with eMarketing Association, and all the best to you, and thank you again.
Thank you, sir.